Ya hala. Right now I want to talk with you about a structure that we can use for describing things, what we call a false idafa, or al-idafa غير الحقيقية. If you've studied Arabic for any length of time, you'll know that idafa structures are absolutely everywhere. And I'm operating on the assumption here that you are already familiar with real idafas, idafat haqiqiyya, and how they work. So as you know, in a genuine idafa, an idafa haqiqiyya, we have a collection of nouns, and we're describing a sort of possessive relationship between those nouns. If you're my student, you may have heard me say, an idafa can only have nouns. Well, right now we're talking about fake idafas, in which the first term is actually an adjective. We can use this construction to make phrases that mean things that sound like English phrases you might have heard, such as fleet of foot or sound of mind. Those might sound a little bit archaic in English, I think they do, but in Arabic we use them all the time in the present day to describe people and things, and especially to describe personal characteristics of human beings. That's one case where we hear them all the time. So if we wanted to say, my darling, my beloved is good-hearted, well, in Arabic we could say, my darling is good of heart. That's how we would phrase it. So something like this. Habibi, no explanation necessary, I'm sure. And طيب القلب, good of heart. The only difference between this and a real idafa is that طيب is an adjective, right? It's a characteristic, it's a word we use for describing things. And we're saying طيب القلب, good of heart. Otherwise, this works exactly like a real idafa. If we were going to fully vocalize it, the first noun would take whatever i'rab it needed to, but on the basis of the sentence, and here it would just be the beginning of a khabar, so it would be marfu'a, طيب, and it wouldn't take tanween because it's the first word of the idafa, and then the second word of the idafa would be majroor, as it always is. If we wanted to talk about a feminine beloved, the difference would be that we would need to change the adjective to reflect the femininity. So if we were instead talking about habibati, we would just add a ta marbuta, and then instead say tayyibatul qalb. Same principles apply. Suppose that we wanted to say something like, my dad talks a lot, my father talks a lot. We could just say والدي يتكلم كثيرا, using a conjugated verb. There wouldn't be anything wrong with that, but we could also say something like, my father is much of speech. كثير الكلام. A slightly fancier, more interesting way of expressing the same idea. And again, if we were talking about my mother, instead, والدتي, we would just add a ta marbuta to describe our feminine noun, and we would be good to go. We can also use it for abstract concepts. If suppose we wanted to say, this is a widespread problem. Well, هذه مشكلة, and then we could describe the mushkila, the problem, as wide of spreading. We could use a masdar for being spread, and then we would wind up with واسعة الانتشار. Intashara is that verb for spreading widely or being found in every place. So we can say wide of spreading. We couldn't get away with that in English, probably, but in Arabic, it's a perfectly acceptable structure. And there you have it, a false idafa. Not quite a real idafa, but a handy tool for describing people, places, and things.